So today we will start the topic with the enterprise campus design, right? But before that, we will see what we have covered in our last session. Okay, so we have talked about in the last session with respect to this campus design consideration, right? One second. Yes, campus design consideration, right? So in that we already seen the infrastructure device characteristics, their different consideration with respect to the network applications, right? Like the peer-to-peer, client to server farm, and as well as from the client to enterprise edge server, right? Also we have discussed about this environmental characteristics and consideration, that what will be happen in intra-building communication, inter-building communication, and that distance remote building, right? Along with that, we also discuss about the different transmission media, right? Like copper, fiber cable, fiber optic cable, and then wireless and all that things, right? Then we have also discussed about the infrastructure device characteristics and the consideration with to cost and all that things. Okay, and also we have seen all these types of the switching, right? The multi-layer switching, layer 2 and the layer 3 switching. Then with respect to the only Cisco device, Cisco Express forwarding, how it can be happen, and QoS consideration in this particular switching, right? And also we have discussed about the what is the difference in between the layer 2 and the layer 3 switches, right? With respect to the load sharing with that, right? So this also we have discussed in our last session. Okay, so today we are going to start with this second module of this particular second point or second topic from this particular module, that is your enterprise campus design, right? And what are the different requirements with respect to that? And if you see, if you consider with respect to this particular enterprise campus requirement, right? So whenever I am using word the enterprise, right? So you must understand the enterprise is belongs to, or it having this particular campus infrastructure, right? So in campus infrastructure you are having this particular access layer, then distribution layer, core layer, then this particular server farm, right? And edge distribution also you are having, right? So these things you must understand, right? So hierarchical model, whatever we have studied in our previous sessions, right? So that are the part of this particular enterprise campus designing, right? And that also we need to see, and these are the some points which will be nothing but the functional areas what we have seen in our last sessions, right? So this is nothing but the campus enterprise campus functional areas, what we can call it as. Okay, so we will see this one by one, but proceeding to this today's session, right? So we will must know what we mean by the VLAN, right? And what is the functionality of our virtual LAN, right? What are their types and all that things, right? Because whenever you are going to talk about this particular building access layer design consideration, right? So in that particular part you must understand this with respect to the VLAN, how the VLAN can be used to what we can call manage at that particular access layer, right? So that you must be understood, right? So for that we will see this particular thing, right? So give me a second, I will just change my window, open that file. Okay, so if you see here in this particular VLAN, right? So it is nothing but our experiment also, right? So this is number 8, that to design and configure the VLAN on a switch or a router, right? So if you see, VLAN is nothing but connection, a large, whatever the you have any kind of the large network, right? So for if you wanted to provide a better security or better management, right, then you need to configure the VLAN on the any kind of the switch or routers in order to divide your VLAN. You can also create multiple VLANs also, right? So that can be a part. But if you see what are the different features of VLANs, right, so the VLANs allows you to add, move or change network with ease by just configuring a port into an appropriate VLAN, right? So what you need to do is, in whatever you are configuring, for example, if you are configuring any switch, if you are configuring any router with respect to the VLAN, right, then you just need to configure that particular port in which you need to send a traffic from one part to another part, right? So that will be we are doing with the help of this particular VLAN, right? So with the help of VLAN we are configuring a port of that particular switch or router, so in order to pass the VLAN traffic. Okay, then VLANs allows you to create a logical group of users or by a function, right? So it will be logically created different sections of your network with the help of VLAN. Okay, and you can allow traffic in between all these sections, right? So VLANs are typically independent to users physically or geographic location. VLANs enhances the security, network security, increases the number of broadcast domain and all that things we will see in a topology diagram itself. Then next is each VLAN is identified by unique identification numbers, right? So whatever VLANs you are creating on any kind of the switch or any kind of the router, right, so they have their own unique identification number, right, and we can call it as an VLAN ID, right? And the range of this particular VLAN ID is fixed, right? So it will be in between 1 to 1005, right? So any number you can use in between the 1 to 1005 for configuring your VLAN, right? So VLAN 1 is the default VLAN. So whatever the first VLAN you are going to create, that would be, we can call it as a native VLAN, right? The default VLAN, and its identification number is 1. Okay, and it can be used for your administrative purpose. So whatever you are going to configure with this particular VLAN 1, so it will be your administrative VLAN, first VLAN, right? Then there are also types of this particular VLAN, right? So for first one is your static VLAN, the second one is dynamic VLAN, right? So what exactly the static means, right? So whatever the administrator going to configure that particular VLAN, right, so he needs to manually change or manually update the VLAN databases, right? So every time. Okay, so whatever the changes are there, whatever the configuration you are creating, whatever the network traffic you are flowing from that particular VLAN, right, so each and every time that administrator needs to update that particular database manually. Okay, so whenever all the manual kind of works are there, right, so it will be feasible only with the small network, right? It will not be feasible with the large network or any dynamic kind of the network, right? Why? Because because it is very much difficult for every time the administrator needs to manually update, manually configure all the things, right? If the network is large, then it is very much tedious task, right? With if you compare this with the static IP addressing, right, so in that also, if your network is very large, right, then for each time or for each devices to give the static IP addresses and to remember that for your what we can for routing purpose also, so it will be a very tedious task, right? So what we are using, so we are using this DHCP, right, the dynamic IP address allocation scheme, right? So with respect, if you compare that, then it will be very easy to you for understand, right? Then here next is your dynamic VLAN, right? So obviously here the already whatever you are doing in manually in the static VLAN, it will be done automatically, right? with the help of some VTP, right? So it is VTP is nothing but your VLAN trunking protocol, right? So it will be done via this, right? Automatically update all these things, right? And therefore it will be very much useful for in your any kind of large network if you talking about, right? So this dynamic VLAN so is which will be used frequently, right? So here I am giving you one showing you one topology, right? So if you see in this particular topology, right, so two switches are there, switch 1 and the switch 2, and here four PCs are there, PC0 to PC3, right? And I have divided this particular topology into two parts, right? So for example, if you see here, the PC0 is nothing but my sales department, right, and PC1 is nothing but my account department, right? Similarly in here second part also, the PC2 is for the sales department and the PC3 is for your account department, right? And if you see here, I am giving switch 1, right, connection in between for the switch 1 is PC0 and PC1, right, and their respective VLAN name also, right? And each VLAN is having some VLAN ID, right? So I am creating here the two VLANs, the VLAN 1 and the VLAN 2, right? For example, this PC0 and PC2. Okay, so what is the purpose of mine to create the VLAN in this particular network, right? That you must first understand, right? For example, if you see in our labs, right, if you compare this particular topology with respect to our lab, right, so you will understand this completely, right? For example, this is nothing but the first row of your 301 and this is nothing but the second row of the 301, okay, and this is nothing but the first row of your 302 lab, and this is nothing but the second row of your the 302 lab, right? So you must understand this is nothing but your lab 301, okay, this is nothing but your lab number 302, okay, this is first row, second row of 301, first row, second row of your 302, okay. Now what you need to do is you need to send a traffic from your row number 1 from 301 to row number 1 for your 302 lab, right? And next from row number 2 of 301 lab to row number 2 of your 302 lab, right? So that thing you need to do, okay. But before that, if you see, I want to only communication in between this particular cells to this particular cells only, okay. I don't want, for example, what happened currently, if I am not going to configure VLAN here, right, so whatever you are for example, if you are pinging from this particular PC0 to PC1, it gets ping. If you are going to ping in between the PC0 to PC2, it will also get ping. You can get also the connectivity, right? And same with the each and every PC in each and every switch, you can get a connectivity in between this from this PC0, right? But what I want only a communication in between this PC0 to PC2. Why? Because the both systems, or because the both of the thing are in a sales department, belongs to the sales department, right? And I want a connection in between only this particular sales department, right? I don't want to send any packet to this particular account department unnecessarily, right? Because it's not a part of this particular account department, right? I am only interested in between the sales department, right? Same as I am just wanted to interested in between this particular account department. I am not able to send any packet to this particular sales department, right? So in this way, for example, from 301 to one first row to I am sending the packet to this particular 302 first row, right? And again from the second row of 301 to second row of my 302, I wanted to send a packet only about these systems, right? Then there is a need to configure the VLAN in this particular system, right? So because what happened, you are giving security, right, in terms of what? So only you are going to able to send a packet, so in whichever machine or whichever department you want to send, right? For example, here sales to sales only you are able to send a packet, right? So there will be no traffic will be flow to this particular account department, right? So it will be efficiently you are using your what we can call as connectivity is in between the only sales department, right? So unnecessary packet is not transferred to the account, right? So there will be no any QoS degradation is there, right? So all the QoS parameters whatever you are considering for network performance, that will be also helpful for you to get it increased, right? So this is nothing but the topology we need to create in our lab also, right? So for configuring here I want to, for example, I want to create a two VLANs, right? So first of all VLAN 1 for this particular switch and VLAN 2 for this particular switch, right? So I am creating here, I am just giving the names of my VLANs. So VLAN space VLAN ID whatever it may be 10, and name of that particular VLAN 10 equal to name equal to sales, right? For example, I am giving here the name is 301, right? Here also the VLAN 20 and name is giving my the only the 302, for example, right? Likewise, and then I'm opening my switch port, right? So switch port is this one, right? So switch port I am opening here, we should be giving the access to this particular switch, right? And I am just allowing here switch port access to my first VLAN, that is VLAN 10, okay? And with respect to the same for the this particular what we can as this particular interfaces as my VLAN 2, right? So for that also I am giving the name as a VLAN 20, okay? So for if you see for switch 1 only for two interfaces, that is first is fast ethernet 0/1 and the second one is also fast ethernet 0/2. So for this particular area, right, I am giving VLAN as a 10, and this particular for account department I am giving the area as a VLAN 20, right? Now you have configured only here the first switch, right? So same way you need to configure the second switch as well, right? So for here also sales for first department for sales you need to give the same VLAN IDs, right? Because you need to transfer the VLAN traffic from one department to another same department, in between the same department, right? So whatever the VLAN ID you are giving for the sales, the same VLAN ID you need to give to this particular sales department in from the switch 2 as well, right? So here also I am giving VLAN 10 as my ID, and for account also you need to give the ID of this particular row, right? The second row of your 301 to second row of your 302, right? So in this way I have given the same thing, right? So if you see okay, for to you need to, if you need to check that whatever your configuration you are giving about the VLAN, right? So you can fire a command show space VLAN space brief, so it will be gives you, okay? So for example, if you see here, right, for the fast ethernet 0/1 the VLAN 10 is enabled, right? The VLAN name I am giving here the cells, and for VLAN 2 this 20 as ID, and name is your account, and it will be on your fast ethernet 0/2, right? That means second port, okay? The same way we need to do on the switch 2 as well, right? So again I am giving the name as account and all that things to all the same things you need to take upon to your switch 2, right? But now here if you see in this topology, right, so now our first switch is also configured with my VLAN, and the second switch is also configured my VLAN, right? But what you need to do is you need to send a traffic, right? You need to send a traffic from your one switch to another switch, right? So so for this purpose you want one trunking protocol you need to do, right? So for trunking of the port, right? So if you see here Yes, so you need to configure the VLAN trunking there, right? So what happen, or what is the function of this particular trunking, right? So it will be able to, or it will be used to send that VLAN traffic, right, from one switch to another switch, okay, by using a trunk port, right? So what you need to do is you need to just configure that particular port of that switches, right, in order to send the traffic from one switch to another switch, or one router to another router, right? So how to configure that particular port with respect to this particular VLAN trunk, right? So for that, if you see, okay, so on which port you need to configure that VLAN port, right? So that also you must know. So here I am using, for example, interface FS0/3. So I am using FS0/3 because from FS0/3, my connection in between this particular FS0/3 to FS0/2 to the next switch, right? So that's why I'm able to trunk that particular port, right? So after that, you just fire a command switch port space mode space trunk, right? But what happened, you need to do this for both the switches, right? Why? Because if you do on a one switch, right, then the traffic may go from this particular switch, but it will be not received to another end, right? So that's why what you need to do is you need to configure this particular trunk port on this particular both the switches, right? So here also I am doing the same. Yes, okay, so on switch 1 also I am doing this switch port mode as a trunk, and the second one also switch port mode as a trunk, right? And if you need to check whether it will be enabled or not, right, so you can use this show interface switch port wala part, right? So it will be gives you the administrative mode as in your trunk, right? So the trunking is enabled, so you are now able to send a packet from one switch to another switch, right? And if you see, and if you wanted to check whether our VLAN configuration is successful or not, right, so how to check, right? So you just need to ping from this particular cells to this particular account. Now it won't allow the ping, right? So it won't allow the communication or connection in between these particular two systems or to this particular two department. Why? Because the VLAN for this particular first PC, that is cells of first row of your 301, is a different VLAN ID, right? That is, it is nothing but the VLAN 10, it is nothing but the VLAN 20, right? So it is nothing but your account department, right? Will be not able to ping to this particular PC0 to from PC0 to PC1, right? With the same, if you ping from this particular cells to this particular cells department, right? So now it will be allows you for the ping. Why? Because PC0 also having the same VLAN ID as a 10, PC2 also is having the VLAN ID as a 10, right? So in between the VLAN 10 and VLAN 10 there must be a communication, and it will be happen via this particular trunking port, right? Because it will be transferring all the VLAN traffic from this particular switch to this particular switch, right? And same way with respect to your account department, right? That means second row of your 301 to second row of your 302, right? So it will be also allowing here itself. For example, if you are going to ping from this particular account to this particular PC, right? So here in this case you are using this particular trunking port, right? But what happened here, the account is nothing but on a different VLAN, and the sales is nothing but on a different VLAN, right? So there will be no traffic will be goes, right? So the communication will not happen, right? And if you see here in account to account there will be a communication, right? Because the VLAN ID is the same, right? We are using trunking port for VLAN traffic transfer, right? So it will be allowing the communication, right? So in this way you can able to configure the security with respect to this particular VLAN, right? You can manage easily, right? So so all these things you need to do in your laboratory sessions as well, right? Because if you see in a lab session, right, so whatever the concepts we are going to study, whatever the concepts we are going to implement or configure, right, so that you need to apply on your mini project as well, right? For example, this VLAN traffic VLAN configuration or Okay, so whatever the I have given the topic with respect to your railway network, I have given the traffic with respect to your shopping mall, right, your cyber cafe, then your defense system and all that things, right. So in there, if you wanted to configure the security, right, so with respect to the VLAN, you can do with respect to your ACLs, you can do, you can use their you can configure their DHCP instead of static, right. All these things we need to configure and we need to use in this particular with respect to the mini project, right. So this VLAN, I think I hope you understood what is the meaning of the VLAN, what are the types of the VLAN, how to configure VLAN, right, and what is the purpose of this particular VLAN, right. So we will get back to our topic, right. So give me a second, I just open that. Yes. Okay, so here we will see now, we will start with first of all the campus requirements, right. If I wanted to see the what are the different campus design requirements I have, right. So these are nothing but with respect to some of the requirements I have listed here. If you see, the technology part is there, scalability is there, high availability is there, performance is there, then cost per port is there, right. So it will be with respect to the what, with respect to the obviously your enterprise network, right. And whenever I am talking about the enterprise network, so it will having some of the my access layer, distribution layer and the core layer, right, as well as this particular server farm and this distribution as well, right. So these are nothing but you can see, you are you already know these are the nothing but the part of your Cisco hierarchical model also, right. So in hierarchical model and the functional areas of enterprise network, you can get all these things, right. So you know all these things. Okay, so with respect to these requirements, you need to check upon what is the requirement of my enterprise campuses, right. For example, if you see, for the building access layer, obviously the scalability should be high, right. The building access layer can be accessible with the help of this particular data link layer, and with the help of that particular multi-layer switch also, right. So you already seen in the last lecture, right. So what is the difference in between the layer 2 and the layer 3 switching, right. So layer 3 switching also we can call it as the multi-layer switching. Okay, so here in distribution also it can be possible, in campus core it also it can be possible, for each and everything the multi-layer switching can be possible, right, if you're talking about the technology part, right. If you're talking about this particular scalability part, right, so obviously the building access layer is a highly scalable, right. The building distribution is medium scalable. Now it is why it will be a medium scalable, so you must understand, you must know, right, in at the what is the functionality of the distribution layer, right. So distribution layer, we are used, or we are able to use this particular distribution layer, it is nothing but the policy based connectivity will be there, right. So there you are going to enforce some policies in this particular distribution, right. So for the policies and the protocol, right, so you must have some minimum scope, right, for to change or to scale each and every time, right. So that's why it will be on a medium scalability for this particular building distribution, right. And if you check upon this particular campus core, right, so obviously the campus core scalability will be very very low. Why? Because it is your backbone of your any kind of the network, right. So in if you see in the campus core also, right, so there are we are having some core switches, core routers over there, right, the core servers were over there, right. So with respect to that, right, we can't scale too much, okay, in the campus core, right? Because it will be responsible for your high switching part, right? So we are not able to scale it very much thing, right? So that's why it's having a low scalability. Okay, then again for the server farm, it having the medium with respect same as your building distribution region, and for the edge distribution also the same reason with respect to the campus core, because if you see in edge distribution also we have that particular e-commerce module, right? We have all that particular PSTN module, right? And in order to working with all these things, right, we can't have much scalability over there, right? We can't able to scale that too much part, right? So that's why here the scalability is very low. Okay, and then the next requirement is your the high availability, right? So obviously you know the for any if you configure any kind of the network, as a high availability should be there, right? So here if you see in this particular thing, the campus core and the server farm is having the high availability, right? Because these two are the nothing but the backbone for your network, right? So the high switching should be there, right? There should be one backup links should be there, right? Then there the or whatever the servers you are going to use there, right? So it will be also available, so that the all the services whatever you are used with the help of that particular network, that also available with you, right? So and the rest is nothing but the medium availability. Why I am giving here the medium availability, right? So obviously it will be depending upon your campus core and the server farm, right? So that's why I am giving you the lower medium availability, right? Then the next is your the performance, right? So performance also similar to your high availability, right? The reasons are also the same. Then the cost per port, right? So if you see for any for each and every port, what is the cost, right? So you must understood that so there will be a high cost for your campus and the server farm, right? Because whatever ports you are using, right, if you wanted to scale any kind of the port, right, then it will be cost you too much at campus core and the server farm part. Okay, and if you wanted to scale up any port on at the access layer, then it will be cost very much low as compared to your campus core and the server farm layer area, right? So these are nothing but some of the enterprise campus requirements what we have. Okay, then we will see what are the building access layer design considerations, right? So there are some questions here I am asking about while whenever I am implementing any kind of the campus infrastructure at building access layer, right? So all these questions you should be considered, right? For example, the first question, if you see how many users or host ports are currently required in the wiring closet, and how many will it require in the future, right? So you must understood that what are the different number of users are there, right, for that particular network infrastructure, right? What are the different users which will be in a future they can be used to connect it with your systems, or used to connect it with your network, right? That you must understood, right? So before building any kind of the access layers, right? So for example, if you see in our college, for example, besides our library, we have a new lab over there, right? So 311 yes, what is 308, I think name, yes, 308 we have. Okay, in the 308 also, what is the capacity of that particular 308? Okay, so 100 pieces are there, right? So what is the future need of that particular how many number of users can be attached with that particular 308, right? So all these things you must know. Okay, but before building any kind of the access layer design, right? Then if you see the second question is the how many ports are available to this particular end user connectivity at the walls of the building, right? So that we already talk about. Then the how many access switches are not located in wiring closet, right? Or what? Yes. Oh, what there? Yes. How many access switches are not located in the wire enclosures, right, that you need to find out. Then what cabling is currently available in the wire enclosure, right, so which kind of cabling you are used, right. So we already discussed in our last session. So there are copper cable is there, then wireless media is there, then optic fiber cables is there, right. So what type of the wiring is there, and what cabling options are exist for uplink connectivity, right. So uplink connectivity is also important part, right. So for that you are what you are going to use, right, which cable you are going to use for that. So GBP, in terms of GBPS, 1 GBPS, or any Ethernet cable, which cable you are going to use, that is also you need to find out. Then what data link layer performance does the node need, right. So for each kind of the lab is having some, for example, any different bandwidth, right. And then at which lab which type of the bandwidth is required, and accordingly which type of the cable you are going to select for that particular. For example, in the connectivity in between the lab number 301 is high bandwidth as compared to other labs. Why? Because it having an better configuration we have, right. The 16 GB RAM we have 1 TB HD we have a good I think i5 processor we have, i7 processor we have, right. So in with respect to that also we have an high bandwidth in for that particular lab, right. So for that purpose also which type of the cable you are going to use, which of type of the network connectivity with respect to Ethernet or gigabit Ethernet, which type of the network you are giving to this particular lab with respect to the performance, right. Then what level of redundancy is needed, right, for any kind of the access layer. So if you we already seen there are different types of the redundancies, right. So if you see the power redundancies is there, right. So we have an backup power as our in our college ads also, right. Then the next is your the port redundancies or link redundancies or path redundancies, right. So all these kind of the redundancies is there or not, right, you need to check. Okay. Then what is the required link capacity for the distribution layer switches? So whatever the distribution layer switches we have at our lab in number 312, right, with respect to that what is the link required link capacity. Okay. So how many things can be there, though how many policies we can configure with respect to our distribution layer switches and all that things. Okay. Then are any additional features such as an port security, multicast traffic management, QoS, and all that things is required or not, right. So that also obviously the depending upon the organization to organization, right. So what is the motto and aim of that particular organization, right. So it will be depending upon that part. Okay. Now, so this is so all these kind of the questions you need to you must answers of all kind of the questions you must know before designing any kind of the access layer of the building, right. So these are nothing but the considerations, right. So you can also include as many as questions, right, with respect to the access layer. For example, again, if I wanted to give, so how the VLAN and STP is deployed on this particular access layer, right. So where there will be a single VLAN or several VLAN per access switch over there, right. So whatever the distribution building access layer you are going to use, right. So you are able to configure the VLAN on that particular distribution layer switch as well. So if you yes, then the how many switches you are going to use deployed that particular part, right. So that also you are going to frame all these kind of the questions with the help of this particular access layer design considerations, right. Then we will see the next point, that is how we are going to manage our VLAN and STP, right. So for this part I have already explained you what do you mean by the VLANs types and all that things, right. So for this part we will must understand first what do you mean by this particular VLAN, right. Then we'll see how the limit of VLANs to a single wiring process whenever possible, right? Because it is a very best practices, right? So whatever, whenever you are using VLANs or STP, right? So this is one recommendation that, so whatever you are using, if you are using VLANs, right? So it must be to a single wiring closets, right? So wherever the possible, whenever the possible. So and the next one is to avoid using STP is possible, right? So STP is the protocol which will be defined in your this IEEE 802.1, right? So it will be avoid requiring any type of the STP, right? So if you see here the RSTP, right? So RSTP is nothing but your rapid STP, okay? So it will be more deterministic, right, and high available network topology we can call, right? So if yes, so if whatever the STP environment we are going to use, right? So it will be bridge protocol data units, okay? So whatever we are using this bridge protocol data units, right? So it will be lost, right, and the network fails in an open state, right? So whatever the forwarding traffic you are used, right? So it will be with the unknown destination for all the ports, right? And therefore it will be, obviously it will be nothing but the broadcasting, right? And if you see in opposite direction, right? So routing, if routing is failed, so it will be closed network connection, right? So okay, so it will be your STP STP is nothing but the overloaded in that case, right? So that's why you need to avoid the STP if possible, right? And if anyhow if STP is required for you, right, then you must use this particular RSTP, right? That is nothing but the rapid STP, right? Or you can use it per VLAN, you can use a different RSTPs, right? So so it will be very useful. So the Cisco from which we have taken this particular syllabus, right? So the Cisco which is developed this particular per VLAN spanning tree, okay? Why it will be required then? Because if you are going to use switches, right, for any instance of this particular STP which will be running on this particular per VLAN, right? So it will be allowing you the redundant physical link, right, in between the network only, okay? So it will be used for your different VLANs, right? So it will be easy to configure a different VLANs, okay? And that's why it will be reducing your load of that particular individual link, right? And if you are reducing the individual link, then there is an very low scope to break that particular network, or to failure of that particular network, or failure of that particular link, okay? So that's why this particular Cisco is developed this particular per VLAN spanning tree, okay? So with the help of that we will maintain that particular redundant physical link in between the network, and each VLAN is in a network whatever we are using. So so it will be reducing the overload of that particular link, right? That individual link, okay? So that's why this particular per VLAN spanning tree will be invented by the Cisco, right? And it will be using your RSTP, right? So rapid STP. Then we have the different Cisco STPs toolkits, okay? So as I know, as I already told earlier, right, so Cisco has from that particular rapid by using rapid STP the spanning tree, right? So also Cisco has developed some toolkits, okay, to manage all these particular STPs and RSTPs, right? So which will be not currently having, right? So they have developed this particular some of the tools, right? For example, port fast, uplink fast, backbone fast, root guard, then unidirectional link detection, and many more, okay? So all these having some of the different functionality, right, in order to manage, or in order to use this particular STPs and RSTPs, right? For example, if you consider this particular first one is a port fast, right? So it will be used for the ports to which end user stations or servers are directly connected, right? So whenever for example, if our server farm is there, right, and if server farms are directly connected to that particular port, right, then it, in that case, this port fast will be used, right? So, and if I am using this particular port fast, then there will be no delay in passing the traffic, right, because it will be switch immediately in this by using this particular port fast, right? So therefore it will be used, right? Then there are some features, right? For example, the BPDU guard is there, right? So it will be helpful to secure all this particular transmission whatever happen from by using this particular port fast, right? And also there is a feature of filtering of that particular BPDU part, right? So whenever you are enabling this particular port fast on that particular port on campus core layer, right, so it will be used in the campus core layer, okay? So in that also you have an ability to filter all these BPDU packets, right? Then the second one, if you see the fast, right, so if the link whatever the switches you are using, right, so on that particular campus core layer, right, if it will be goes down that or it the link will be blocked, right, then it will be directly connected to the same switch by using this uplink fast, right? So it will be enable the switch right on a different because see, if I am using all these particular redundant port, right, then there must be a some if primary link is goes off or goes down, right, then it must transfer or it must switch to our redundant port, right? And exactly that would be done by this particular uplink fast port, okay? So whatever the link is goes down, then it will be directly transfer all the packets to our backup link or redundant port or redundant path, right? So for it will forward traffic to that particular part, okay? Then the backbone fast, again the same thing, if the primary switch is fails, but if it is not directly connected to the same switch, right, then at the same time this backbone fast will be used, and it will be help to reduce the time in between that particular time duration where the failure comes, and then the traffic will be transferred from failure switch to a backup switch, right? So in that case the time will be crucial thing, right? So that time will be reduced by this particular backbone fast port, okay? Then there is a root guard, right? It will be mainly performs for the external switches, right? So which will be becoming the root, or which will be becoming the core, okay? So now for example, if you are using any backup switch, right, so first switch is goes down, right, or you are using the backup switch as external switches, right, and which are becoming now a primary one, right? At that time you can use this particular root guard, right, because it will be enabling all the ports, okay, of that particular part, and then it will be used for the connection, okay? Then UDLD is a undirectional link detection, okay? So sorry, any undirectional link which will be occurs, right? So whenever traffic is transmitted from the local switch, right, over the link which will be reduced by the any kind of the another switch, right, for example, then that traffic should be transmitted which will be from the local devices, okay? And for that, this particular unidirectional link detection can be used to detect that local devices by with the help of that particular neighbor, right? So in that part this unidirectional link is detected, right? So this is nothing but the Cisco STP's toolkit. There are many more. I have just listed to 4 to 5 toolkits of the Cisco's, right? So which will be gives you the better management of this particular STPs, right? So because the suggestion is what do you must use the RSTPs, right? But if RSTP is not there, right, with the with respect to the Cisco part, then this particular Cisco STP alternatives toolkits are there which you can use if RSTP is not there, right? But the RSTP you need to use, that is the primary thing. Okay, if it is not there, then only you need to go with this particular STP tools. Okay, and then okay, yes, then we will see this implementation of routing in this particular building access layer, right? So we will see in this in next session. Okay, so so here also you must understand about this whatever we have talked about, this particular trunking in between the switches, right? So it will be happen if you compare it with the hierarchical network design, right? So in hierarchical, you already know, you have building access layer, you have and building distribution layer and core layer, right? So these trunks whatever happening between the two switches, right? So these are typically you can deployed on interconnection between the building access layer and the building distribution layer. Okay, so these trunking in between, because you know already we are not going to configure any policies, or we are not going to given any rules on the our core part, right? So we are just allowing all these things on our distribution layers, right? So for that only, for if you wanted to configure VLANs or any kind of the security or any kind of the policies, protocols and all that things, right? So for that purpose, you already know we have an policy based distribution layers, right? So on distribution layer or for the building access switches, you are going to do all these things. Okay, so that's why these all the trunks whatever we have talked about, right? So it will be we are deployed in interconnection between the building access layer as well as in building distribution layers, right? So that you must understood. Then the another mode is what? So there is, and this particular STP is nothing but your what, the static trunking protocol we can call, right? So same way that one DTP is also there, that is nothing but the dynamic trunking protocols, right? So which will be mainly used for the encapsulation part. Okay, it will be support encapsulation. So that is also another thing. Okay, so all these things you must understood, you must know. Okay, so what we have we will stop today, right? So we will go with this particular implementation routing in the building access layer in our next session. Okay, so because we have an limited time now, so what we have covered today is, so we have started with the enterprise campus design, right? So we have, first of all, we have discussed about the VLAN, what do you mean by VLAN, what are the different types of the VLAN, how to configure VLAN, right? With the help of our college labs example we have discussed, right? Then we have seen these enterprise campus requirements, right? So there are technological requirement, cost per port requirement, availability, scalability, right? So with the help of these we have compared with our functional areas, right? The enterprise access, building distribution, and the enterprise core and server farm, right? And in that also we have carried out our campus requirement, right? Then we have seen the building access layer design consideration, that also we have checked this particular how to manage VLANs and STPs, and what are the different STP, if we are not going to use, then what are the different Cisco's toolkits are there, right, which will be used to manage these particular STPs. Because the RSTP you need to use, but if RSTP is not there, then in case in case of that you need to use this particular Cisco STPs, right? And there are a different toolkits for all this part, right? so this is also there. So these points we have covered today, so rest of the things we will see in the next session. Okay, so this is today's link for the test. Okay, so ma'am will post this particular link in chat box, so you need to give this test, right? So the test is compulsory for all. Okay, so thank you for joining. We will stop today.